I, like many, love the Dead Space games. One felt like putting the Resident Evil 4 formula in space, with a lot of inspiration from other fun horror flicks. The story was intriguing, the gameplay compelling, and it was genuinely one of the few games I found to be scary. The sequel ramped up things on the action side, and if the first felt more like Alien, 2 had a lot more of that Aliens vibe to it. The horror was maintained, and the developers did a good job of continuing the intensity and dread. The third entry was very divisive. Much of the horror elements were gone and it went full action. I still enjoyed the game, but it felt like the publisher meddled too much to shift away from the scares of the first two. While fun, it was missing some things that made Dead Space Dead Space. So when some of the same developers of the first two games decided to get together and make a new survival horror title, I was very interested. I mostly stayed away from the marketing and wanted to jump in more blind on this one. So let's dive into the Callisto protocol. The Callisto Protocol is a survival horror title that excels at its atmosphere and sense of dread. Much of this is provided through the sound design and excellent lighting. Exploring and escaping the prison is rewarding and enjoyable as you peel back what it has to offer. Almost everything is out to get you, and it truly is a fight for survival. Visually and graphically, this game is impressive. Thankfully, the gameplay measures up as well. To be clear, this isn't exactly Dead Space, but it definitely feels like it was made from the same mold. It really shows how this type of sci-fi horror has legs, and I appreciate how the developers didn't take the easy route and just make another Dead Space title, but rather something that combines elements of their prior work with something new, and this even extends to the combat itself. Let's start off with the basics of the melee. It starts simple with providing fun nuances that rewards the player with their timing and skill. You start off with being able to slam your weapon into an enemy, and you really feel each hit. It's satisfying and very weighty. Your main means for defense is with your dodge, and now this is set up a bit differently. In most games, you would have a button dedicated to blocking or rolling. Here it is all done with the left stick. Enemies provide a small wind-up window so you can try to figure out which direction you should dodge in. Even on normal, I found the melee and dodging to be a great mixture of high risk and high reward. While one hit won't kill you, it can really throw off your entire rhythm for an entire encounter, resulting in your death. This can be frustrating. At the same time, really nailing down reading your enemies and reacting appropriately can be incredibly rewarding. This means encounters usually end up in two buckets for me. One's where I encounter a foe, set of foes, or a new enemy type and was able to learn and react on the fly to succeed. Or ones where I lost and I was able to take something back with me and apply it for my next try. In those instances, death was a teacher, and I was expanding my knowledge on how to tackle a specific enemy or encounter better. This could be learning to focus on an enemy with a ranged attack first, learning to use my environment to my advantage better, or understanding a tell from an enemy to better react to their attacks. Something I found myself saying almost every encounter was how memorable it was. I think much of this comes down to how all of this works for the combat. It's compelling and leaves a lot of room to grow and master it. Now as you continue and upgrade, you will open up more options for combat. On the melee side of things, this means dealing more damage or being able to pull off new attacks like a heavy hit. These little additions meant that there's always something new to look forward to increase your chances at survival. On top of this are the guns that you can use. You can operate them like any third-person shooter, but they do have an interesting use with your melee. As you get a few hits in, an icon will pop up on the enemy, and if you hit the aim button quickly, you can snap to that point and fire off a shot. This is really cool to pull off and see, and makes you feel like a bit like John Wick in a horror setting. On the sound and impact side of things, Callisto is great. Melee hits feel weighty from how your character pulls off moves, along with the enjoyable slashes and thuds you dish out. Pretty much any body part can be shot or hit off. And the stomp from Dead Space returns, and since this is how you get enemies to drop equipment, you're going to see a lot of body parts flying around. Most of your combat encounters are more open confrontations, but there are instances where you enter an area and they are not aware of you yet. There are some light stealth options where you can try to thin the herd a bit before alerting everyone to you. I really like these since it allowed for even more options when it comes to how you tackle your foes. One of my early favorites is when you find what looks like an explosive barrel and try to shoot it to catch two enemies in it with the explosion. Or you can try to bait enemies into that position. While this is a linear game, there are plenty of opportunities to explore. You'll want to search every area for more ammo, healing items, and credits. Credits are your main means to buy upgrades, from improving damage, new moves, or even new weapons. Fuses are used a lot to unlock optional rooms, even ones with side encounters that can be missed. So take your time and find everything that you can. Of what I've played so far, I really like the story. It's simple yet very inviting. At its core, you are trying to escape, but there's many different parties at play, and you have no idea who they really are, what their motives are, and what their goals truly are too. This adds a lot of mystery to the game that kept me hooked.
Authorized.
As of recording this video, I've played about half of the game. I'm really enjoying it, and I have encountered some flaws so far. For one, I really don't like how the manual save works. Essentially, you need to wait till you hit a set checkpoint, and then you can save that checkpoint. So the manual save doesn't really create a save out of anywhere. This becomes annoying in one of the earlier sections, when I collected everything in the area, went to a side room, saved before entering, and then died, resulting in me going back to the checkpoint before I grabbed everything. Something needs to be better here so that players can safely save after exploring, and know that they will keep what they collected. There's an overuse of enemies sneaking up on you from behind. Having this happen sporadically can keep them unpredictable, but sadly they are used far too often and can be annoying. Another thing that needs refinement is how you heal. It is nearly impossible to heal during an encounter, unless you are lucky enough to have an enemy drop an instant using healing item. So for healing, you have an injector and a consumable that is used instantly when you pick it up. You can hoard injectors, but they take a long time to use. You need to sit through a drawn-out animation to heal from these. This causes a lot of frustration because of this, even on normal. Now I do like that a full health takes much longer to do. It makes you vulnerable because of the animation, but you should be able to hold the instant healing items and use them whenever you want quickly during combat. These only heal you a third, so I think there is a good trade-off. Quick healing you get less, full healing takes much more time. Callisto does have flaws, but it's still very, very fun to play. Overall, I'm having a great time with Callisto, but the longer I play, the more flaws I see, and there is a lot of room for improvement. The combat is really engaging, intense, and very fun, especially the first few hours. The reliance on melee means you need to get up close and personal with these guys. Every one of your weapons feels deadly and satisfying to use. The atmosphere and visuals are great. The survival horror vibe is done well here, and it has a nice sense of dread. Now I wanted to add this in since I played a bit more before I finished the script for this. I am now a little more than halfway through it, and I'm very much enjoying it, but I continually find more flaws. Something else that I want to make note of is that it definitely feels like it has the spirit of Dead Space. It might not be the most refined, but as a fan of those games, I love seeing it back here in some form. I plan to make a full review at a later point, after I've fully beaten the game. If you have played the game, let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.